a really good way to make a change in your stroke is to exaggerate the thing you're trying to make, because you can always bring it back from there. But often people don't do enough of the thing that they're trying to change, so it just never changes in their stroke. Hey, Brenton here from Effortless Swimming. Welcome to Feedback Friday. In today's episode, we are looking at a triathlete who's training for a half distance Ironman, and his pace is around 2 minutes per 100. So he said he's come down from around 2 minutes 50 per 100 over the last year and doesn't come from a swimming background. So he's kindly sent through his videos for us to have a look at, and we'll see what he can do to swim faster. Now, if you're in the same boat, if you'd like to have your own video analyzed, then I'll put the link below where you can submit your videos for Feedback Friday. If you'd like to skip the queue and just get an analysis done, then I'll put a link to our one-time analysis as well if you'd prefer to do that, where you can submit your video and I'll provide an analysis for you, pretty similar to this. Now, in today's video, we're going to have a look at a couple of things, particularly related to timing and how that can impact your catch. So one of the things that really stands out here is that if we look at the body position, the legs are dropping down a bit, and Joe mentioned this in his comments that he can feel his legs dragging quite a bit. And one of the things that really can cause that is if the lead hand doesn't stay out in front long enough. So if the timing of the stroke is out. So if we look at the side view here, you'll see that the lead hand here on that breathing stroke goes down to the bottom of the pool quite early. So you'll notice that this hand is just exiting the water, but this hand is already down there. And if we continue along a little bit further, you'll see that by the time this hand enters, this one is well past the shoulder. Now, with some elite swimmers, you'll see that timing, but very few. And with most swimmers that we work with, who people are doing triathlon and open water swimming, they're not elite swimmers. What we typically want to try and maintain is a front quadrant stroke. So always keeping something out in front of the head there. And usually we want to have this hand entering while the other arm is somewhere around here to about there. So somewhere in that sort of range is where a lot of swimmers are best off. So we call that sort of basically front quadrant timing. So what's happening is on his breathing strokes, the hand comes in and it goes down to the bottom of the pool pretty early on. And in this moment, there's nothing out in front of his head there. And in terms of his balance, it causes the legs to drop down because the weight of the legs kind of takes over. Whereas if he's able to keep this lead arm reaching forwards for a little bit longer before he starts the catch, then it's going to change the balance of his body, because with the arm out here, he's essentially going to be this long in the water. Whereas if this arm is down here, right now he's this long in the water. And so that's when the weight of the legs can kind of take over a little bit. And it's one of the things that can cause the legs to drop down. So one of the first things that we may look to work on here is just keeping that lead arm reaching forwards at shoulder height for a little bit longer before starting the catch. But particularly the left arm is the main one that we'd want to do that, because he's not getting much propulsion from that lead arm. So if we look from the front view here, we'll have a look and see what's happening. So as he enters there, yeah, it's just going straight down. One of the things that I look for is, are they over rotating? Because often we see swimmers when that same thing is happening, that their shoulders go so far on the side that their shoulders are at 90 degrees, which is too far. But the rotation there seems fine. He looks to be about 40 degrees and there's no need to change that. So how could he change that? I work with this quite a bit in our stroke analysis membership. So that's where people work with me on a regular basis. And I was working with a swimmer only a couple of weeks ago, and she's taken off 5 seconds per 50 and for her 50 sprint time. And so far 2 seconds for a 100 sprint, just by adjusting the timing of her stroke. So the way that we got her to keep her lead arm out in front for longer is we've just really got her to feel like she's gliding on that arm. So as she enters and she reaches forwards, we're getting her to really exaggerate what we call the glide. Now, we don't want to stop and pause, but we're just getting her to really sort of slow it down, give herself a bit more time, and then start pulling through. So a really good way to make a change in your stroke is to exaggerate the thing you're trying to make, because you can always bring it back from there. But often people don't do enough of the thing that they're trying to change, so it just never changes in their stroke. So that'd probably be one of the first things we'd look to do. Now, what that will help him with is, obviously, it should improve his body position. by bringing the legs up a little bit, just by improving the balance. And then the other thing that we could look to do is in terms of the catch and the pull. So if we want to get a bit more out of that, one of the things that will help there is, yeah, we want to work on a high elbow catch, but one of the aspects of that is the path of the hand. Now, you may have seen my video yesterday on Mikhail Romanchuk, who's one of the best distance swimmers in the world. I'll link to that below if you haven't seen that analysis. One of the things you'll notice with him and with all the best swimmers in the world is as they move through the catch, they move through the pull and the press, the fingers continue to point down. So what we could work on here is keeping that position. So if we have a look at, I'm going to get a better view here, this one here. If you have a look at where the fingers are facing through the catch and the pull, right, you'll notice this here. So right there, the fingers have come off to the side and the sort of hand is moving around quite a bit. So it comes from over here and then comes under and then goes back. The path that we want to take is, it's kind of like a long S if you're looking at it sort of from the front. So it'll come away from the center a little bit and then come in next to the hip. So it's like a really long S. You don't necessarily want to pull straight through. There will be a little bit of a curve to it, but we don't want to overdo that sort of S shape. You don't need to overdo it, but that whole time the fingers should be facing downwards. So in this position, he's there. If he could just adjust it and he could have, say, the fingers still pointing down in that phase of the stroke, and through this part of the stroke here, a little bit earlier on, if he was, say, in this position here, that's going to allow him to basically get a high elbow catch, keep the hand and forearm facing behind him, and just get a lot more out of it. So at the moment, what's happening, it's coming in, coming under too far, and then sort of coming out there. So the direction of that force is just off to the side too much. So we just want to try and keep it a little bit smoother, a little bit straighter there. So that would be one of the things. And then if we have a look at this arm too, there, similar sort of thing, just coming under the body a little bit too much with it. That's going to change anyway once we fix that, what that lead arm is doing. But that is where we can really get make a big difference there. So I would probably focus mostly on that. The other thing I want to mention here is, if we have a look at the exit of the stroke, and sometimes this is one of those things where you can sort of get a lot more out of the stroke there, is that with the exit of the stroke, you can see what's happening on some of these strokes here is he's sort of, where are we? There we go. There's not that much propulsion through the back end. So we want to try and just keep that palm facing behind you until about here. Then it can turn into the body when you exit. So you'll notice that the hand sort of turns in a bit early. It doesn't get much propulsion out of that back end. So it's kind of like he loses that propulsion here, which is going to make that lead arm a little bit harder to keep out the front. So just keep that palm facing behind you all the way through until the very end when the hand can turn in. And you've probably seen that in some of our Feedback Friday videos anyway. But I would look to sort of start with those two things. In terms of drills, what could he do with drills? I would most likely, I'd start him with 6-1-6 drill, which is the drill that you can see here, in order to help with his timing. Because in that 6-1-6 drill, what most people do who are pulling through too early is that they'll do the 6 kicks on the side, and then as this arm comes over the top, the lead arm pulls through when that one's leaving. And so they never really get that sort of 3/4 catch up. But if you can do the 6-1-6 drill, keep the lead arm in front until this one gets in front of your head, and then swap it through, that's the timing that majority of swimmers are best off with. So focus on that with the 6-1-6 drill, and it is easy if you wear fins and a snorkel for it. The other drills that he could do to kind of work on the catch and the path of the hand, the YMCA drill that you may have seen in this channel before, that's one of our go-to drills to keep the catch and pull as simple as possible. So the YMCA drill is a really good one for that as well. He could also do other drills like even like a single arm freestyle drill, some pretty basic drills, as long as the focus is on keeping the fingers facing down to the bottom of the pool, and then just some of the regular sort of catch drills that we've got in the membership. So if you are a member, core principle number 4 is where we've got all of those catch and pull drills and the ideal sequence to go through those and how much to do in your workout. So go and check that out there.